this was a year and a half ago, and I sat in his kitchen, and he didn't know exactly where that church was going. And then he said, you know, as I've looked around, he said, the only thing that I can think of where they would be looking for, you know, a good-sized plant was there north of Fry's in that area where Boeing was. And I thought, you know, that's right, and that'd be a perfect area. I'd be excited about that. And so he was dead on right. He was dead on right about where they were looking, and I thought that was so fascinating. So, and I looked very closely at the buildings to see if they had classrooms where Barnabas could potentially meet. And I saw some, and I think it's going to work, and maybe even we would have room for more people. Do we want that?
Yeah.
Is that what we want?
Do you want that?
This will be a lot of fun. So, Lord willing, of course, we'll be there. Now, I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention this because you needed to understand the math that was involved in this. Well, you don't need to understand. It's just kind of interesting to understand when you make incorrect assumptions about certain things. The reason that he was thinking that this year was going to be the year of the rapture was because he felt that the flood. He dated the flood to be, remember, 4,990. BC. That's when he dates the flood. Now, we've talked about this before, and I'm just wondering if you can remember how many years, about what year BC was the flood from a strictly literal Archbishop Usher kind of calculation. How many years ago was the flood? Well, no, not years ago. Let's say what year BC was the flood? Do you have this in your mind, or is it still just foggy? It's just foggy, not 1700. You're looking at a chart.
Your chart.
But it's 1700 that's from creation. I'm talking about from BC. So it was about 2,650 about that year BC was the flood. All right. And then we know Abraham is on the scene at about 2000 BC, and is that right? Or was it 2,350? I think it was 2,350 BC. And the interesting thing about this is that Noah lived how many more days after the flood? Or how many more years? 350. Yeah, and so he was kind of almost a contemporary with Abraham. It's an amazing thing. But he had dated the flood at 4,990 BC, and he felt that the earth would last 7,000 years, and then the rapture would occur. So it just happens that 2011, on this particular date, was 7,000 years from his calculation of the flood at 4,990 BC. Well, but that 4,990, I mean, there was no one else that would agree with that date, because when we look at the flood, it was about 2,350 BC. And then there was about 1,650 years before the flood, when, you know, the earth. That was all the pre-Noah or the pre-flood civilizations. They had 1,650 years to develop. Could have been billions of people on Earth. Truly, could have been billions that were wiped out in that time. But we date the flood, or the Bible dates the flood, if you look at the Bible literally, at 2,350 BC, which means that we're now at the end of the 6,000th year, about right now. And that's why I laugh at this guy setting the date, because he got the date wrong, when the actual date of the rapture is going to be September 30th of this year. Now, why would I say that? That's the date of the Feast of Trumpets, and I'm working out. I am working out, having a party at my house. We're going to have a pre-Feast of Trumpets celebration at my house. It's going to be during the week, so some of you won't be able to come, but we'll have. But here's the point. What I'm trying to figure out is the Feast of Trumpets would occur at daybreak on that particular day, which was the first of the month of Tishri, and if at daybreak if at the end of the day before the sunrise occurs, if the moon is seen, then that day becomes the Feast of Trumpets. And then the trumpets, there would be a series in Israel. There would be in Israel, in ancient Israel, there would be a series of about 100 trumpets blown, with the last blast being a series of 3 or 4. It's kind of interesting how this worked out. And when the trumpet blew like that throughout the land, at the last trump, Israel was supposed to drop what they were doing, even if they were in the field. They dropped their tools, and then they had to go to be with God at the temple. That was what happened at the Feast of Trumpets. Now we know that the fall feast, those have all occurred on the day that the feast occurred. I mean, in Jesus' life, he died on Nisan 14th. That's the day of Passover. And then we had the Feast of Unleavened Breads and the Feast of First Fruits occurred when? When Jesus rose again at the resurrection. Those were fulfilled on the precise days of these feasts. And then we have Pentecost. Fulfilled when? 50 days after Passover. Fulfilled on the exact day of that particular feast. And then there's this long gap of time between those feasts and the feast in the month of Tishri, and that time is symbolic of the time that we're in right now. And now we're waiting for Jesus to fulfill the last 3 feasts. The first one being the Feast of Trumpets on September 29th or 30th. I read, it's kind of, I'm not sure exactly, but so on the 29th in Israel, it's the 28th here, and if it's the beginning of the day, we might have to have our deal on the 27th of September. And so what day of the week is the 27th? Somebody have a calendar? We'll have to figure that one out. But you don't have to come. It's just that it'll be the last time we see each other without 4 or 5 bodies. But the point is, I'm not setting a date, because what I'm saying is, I don't know if this is the year. I don't know if this is the year that Jesus is going to come again. But along with Pastor Mark Blitz, who is that guy that talked about that, what day is the 27th?
Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
Tuesday is, the 27th. 28th is Wednesday.
28th is Wednesday.
That's my birthday, so that's okay with me.
Okay. Okay. All right, we'll have a Feast of Trumpets party and then bring a present for Esther too. All right.
But you didn't say whose clock we're going to go by, because there's all these different clocks all over.
No, I know that. Well, that's right. Harold Camping had it at 6 p.m. all along all of the time zones. Something horrible was going to occur, and when those things didn't happen, they're going, uh-oh, not here either. Anyway, but the point is, see, that's the point. The trumpets would be blown when the new moon occurred, and so that would be when it's visible. And so if it's a cloudy day in Israel, then they would wait. It would have to be, it would be delayed.
So Israel's time clock.
I think it's going to be Israel's time clock.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm trying to count back. So we have to go the day before, and then if it's the evening, well, that will have already occurred, and then. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But so the rapture, we can laugh at this. The rapture, no, forget it. He had the date wrong. It's September 30th. And then next year it'll be, I can't remember what the Feast of Trumpets is in 2012, but it's all interesting. Anyway.
But how do we know that the calendar is right? How do we know that?
We know, no, Esther, we know when the month of Tishri will begin in Israel. All right, and that calculates to our calendar just for September 30th.
I'm not talking about the month, I'm talking about the year.
Oh, we don't know the year.
See, that's what I mean.
We don't know the year. We don't know for sure.
We don't even
We
know
don't
the
know.
calendar.
We're not going to sell. I'm not telling you to sell stuff. I'm just telling you keep your heads up. I don't want this to come. Here's the point. The rapture is not supposed to come upon you guys like a thief.
Right.
It's not supposed. You're not in darkness. You're in light.
Amen.
And so we have all this stuff. We've studied it. We're keeping it in front of our heads, and we're expecting the Lord's return. It could be at any time, but to be, I think, as a fulfillment of the Feast of Trumpets, September 30th is a great day to look. And so if it doesn't happen on that day, then we'll look for Feast of Trumpets next year. And Lord bless, we have another year of trying to bring people in. All right. Yes.
This is a question.
Yes.
So this was misplaced or erroneous or
and Harold Camping is an amillennialist. He doesn't believe in the millennium. So he has all these, that when it's mentioned 6 times, to get right back, 6 times in Revelation 20 it talks about the 1,000 years. He doesn't believe that means anything. And yet an amillennialist coming up with a date, of course it's going to be wrong. I'm sorry for you who are amillennialists.
But you mentioned you're not asking us to sell anything.
No.
Again, this is still a question.
Because you don't know. We don't know.
We got a garage sale next week.
So this was misplaced and erroneous and so forth, but I'm thinking the faith these people had, they didn't sell their house at Blossom. got rid of all their assets.